I used the same tape that BMW used. With all of that sorted, all I need to do is clear the code with the diagnostic tool and get it ready for paint. We're gonna be spraying this with a... Guys, take a look at this thing now. Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. This is day 3 on the BMW 218 build, and I know that you guys are liking it because you're telling me that in the comments. You're clicking and you're watching, so thank you. Anyway, I'm looking at the car right here. I've just spent 5 bills, man. £500 on a few extra parts that is needed to complete this car in this episode. So on day 3, we're gonna be completing the 218 build, and we're not wasting any time. Let me show you what I've got. In these boxes is approximately £500 worth of stuff. We've got a headlight, pedestrian protection system, sensor, and we've got the foam. And there's some other clips, screws, and plastics that I ordered as well. So let me open these up and I'll show you the part. So first of all, this headlight was £320, including the VAT, and that's with trade discount. Not cheap. There you have it, complete headlight from BMW, Berry BMW in West London. This is that sensor that I needed for the pedestrian protection system. Have a look. There you have it. This is the foam that same sensor sits inside. So I need to assemble the sensor into the foam, put the foam on the car, get the bumper back on, get the headlight in, and then we can start the lining up and paintwork process. So with this sensor, I had to just pop it into the pre-cut foam carrier. This is a new part from BMW and it was a perfect fit. Have a look at that. With that sorted, I turned my attention to this headlight, but before I could fit the headlight, I had to do some things first. Firstly, removing that bumper, because that bumper's got to go for paint, as we all know. That is going to happen shortly. With the bumper removed, it was time to fit the foam carrier with that new pedestrian sensor that I had fitted earlier. As you can see, it was a snug fit and it went on without a problem. Alright you guys, so have a look. I went ahead and I put the pedestrian sensor into the foam and I've clipped the foam onto the front crash bar exactly where it goes. That is so solid on there. It's foam, but it's very solid on there. I'm going to put the headlight in, but I'm just sorting out the wires for that crash sensor. One of them is broken, so I've got to solder a new connector on. But whilst I was checking that out, have a look. A lot of you guys have been making comments to say that it's had frontal damage, no airbags have gone off. I wonder why. Well, here's the reason. It's really interesting. On this model, they've decided to put the crash sensor at the bottom of the bumper. You see that little white mark right there? That's the crash sensor, and this tells the car when it's had a frontal impact, and this is what is responsible for making the front airbags blow, or the driver and the passenger side at the front, I should say. Without this sensor being intact, one of two things could have happened. Obviously, there was no damage to the actual sensor, so maybe it didn't pick it up, or maybe as soon as it made impact, it cut this wire here, which disables this crash sensor. Therefore, the signal to the car wasn't able to be passed, so it didn't blow the airbags. But anyway, I need to remove this crash sensor and make sure that I get it onto the car because it's very, very important. So I need to join up these wires, solder this all up, plug it all up, put on a new connector for that, and then I can go ahead and fit the headlight. So let's do that. So I'm using an automotive soldering machine which doesn't require a plug socket. It literally just needs to clip onto any 12-volt source. Whilst that was warming up, I went ahead and stripped down the wires, twisted them in place, and I wanted to do a quick test to see if everything was working before I soldered it in place. Now have a look. I'm using my diagnostic tool to check that code, and then I'm going to clear it. Alright guys, so Akil was in the middle of spraying some panels, so I had to bring the car outside, but I've gone ahead and I've repaired a few wires, and I want to show you what I've done. So this is that wire for the front pedestrian optical sensor. That is what it's called. It's got 2 sensors. I said earlier it was a crash sensor in the bumper, but it's not. So you've got the pedestrian sensor in here that you saw, and then you've got another one in the bumper. So I've gone ahead and I've repaired this wire. And for anyone who's a bit clued up about BMW and they say I haven't used tester tape, I used the same tape that BMW used. So this is that insulation rubber type tape. I also went ahead and put some heat shrink on the inside as well as using this solder For anyone wanting to know about soldering, I always use solder with the flux core. It just makes it a lot more secure, a lot more better, as the flux cleans the wires, and it just makes it clean and a better area for solder to adhere to. But anyway, that's a top tip. With all of that sorted, all I need to do is clear the code with the diagnostic tool, and hopefully I should have no more errors for the pedestrian protection system. If that's all good, then I can go ahead and put the headlight in. So let's see if my fix has worked. No fault codes. That is the result. So let's start the car up, rev it. See, like before, you would have seen bonnet open. If I get rid of that, door open, and pedestrian protection system. Another thing that you can do is, if I go here, go to vehicle information, I want to check the check control, vehicle status, check control. I know that is sorted, but as you can see, all the way up, all the way down, headlight, tire pressure, headlight, fuel reserve, and there's a low power battery in the remote control, and the bonnet is open. But there's no more errors for pedestrian protection system. So that's the result. So let's go back out and fit that new headlight. At this point, guys, I was so excited. We're getting ever closer to completing this build. First of all, I had to remove the old broken bracket from the previous light, get that out of there, and just check out this brand new light from BMW. Just had to slot it into place, and as you can see right at the top, just like I did in the previous episode, there are these little adjustable clips. Had to make sure that they were all lining up, and I left them quite loose because we're going to be doing a final alignment process once the bumper and everything is going back on. But for now, I just loosely fitted everything in place, and then we were able to move on. Now that was the easy part. If any of you guys have ever worked on an F-Series BMW, you will know there are two little screws underneath that are a pain. But anyway, we kept it moving, and take a look at the headlight now. Jeez. With that done, final alignment is looming. Alright you guys, so check it out. Headlight, it has been securely fastened into place. All the brackets have been secured down, all the wires have been sorted, sensors have been sorted, everything is looking and sounding perfect. Have a look at that, shutting down perfectly. Let's get in the garage, sort out that bumper, and then we can marry everything up later on. We need to still sort out this bit, so there's still a ton of work to do, so let's continue. This is the bumper that I picked up for the car. It's a used bumper from eBay, and as you can see, it's got no cracks, but it's got a lot of scuffs and stuff, so we're going to use the DA, sand that all flat, get rid of all those scuffs, prime it, and then we can start to get this ready for paint, and then, like I said, marry everything up. So yeah, man. So guys, it's been a tedious day so far, but things are going together as planned. Hopefully we don't run into any other nasty surprises. It's a ton of work to do, so let's go. So now we're getting down to the business end of this build. We were able to use the DA, as I said, to get rid of all of these scratches. Now have a look, as the DA passes over the scratches, they almost disappear. And I know it looks rough, but believe me, it's super smooth to the touch at this point. Now we used the 180 grit sandpaper initially to get rid of the more coarse stuff, but then we went to a smoother sandpaper, which is a 400 grit, to really get that surface as smooth as possible. Remember guys, with sandpaper, the higher the number, the smoother the sandpaper. The lower the number, the more rough or coarse the bit of sandpaper is. Now after a few more passes with the 400 grit, this is what we were left with. As you can see, we never really touched the middle, and that's because that's the section that was covered by the number plate, and you want to minimize the amount of sanding that you need to do because this could affect the final finish. Next up, I used a 2-pack primer to cover all of the areas that we had just sanded. Now 2-pack primer is very thick, and what it does is it fills in any little gaps, crevices, the most minuscule of scratches that would have been left from that sandpaper. The primer is going to cover, and once you do the water sanding process, believe me, it's going to be as smooth as a baby's bottom. Now once the primer was finished, we put down a guide coat, sanded it flat, and then this happened. Just wait for it. Jeez! Oh my god. Alrighty guys, check this out. Jeez! my guy Akil just went down and put down a couple of layers of base coat and also a couple of layers of clear coat. And look at that front bumper now. All of those scuffs, everything is gone. The 2-pack primer that we use is a thick primer, so it's going to fill in any loose gaps or any scratches that we missed on the DA. I showed you the whole process. We also went ahead and we put a couple of layers of paint and clear coat on that bonnet as well. Now I saw a few comments about the bonnet hinges, and I just want to point something out. If you just slide it across the top, that's 100% level. Everything is level, 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 level. And have a look at that line, that bonnet line. I am happy with that bonnet line. Everything seems to be in place there. And it's the same thing on this side. Have a look at that bonnet line. Level, 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 level. Everything is nice and level, nice and even on that bonnet. And the bonnet is securely fastened, so I don't think those bonnet hinges are bent. I just wanted to point that out. Now, before we continue with anything else, I want to get the DA and just sand this lens completely flat and get it ready for paint. We're going to be spraying this with a clear coat to resurface the outer layer. Imagine it as a chemical peel for your face. We're going to skim the top layer, get rid of all of these scratches. They're not too deep, and then we're going to resurface it with some clear coat. I don't want to do that after I put the bumper on for risk of scratching that bumper, so I'm going to do it now and then put the bumper on the car. Now this is ready to be fitted, but we've got to put all the grills, all the connectors, the sensors, everything back into the bumper, marry up the two, and as you can see it guys, it's coming together. Day 3, let go. Alright you guys, so this is where the magic is going to happen. As you can see, all of these scratches on the surface layer, we're going to get rid of them. And to do that, we're going to be sanding it down with a P400. That's the 400 grit, the same grit that we used on the bumper. We're going to sand all of these scratches as flat as possible. Now, it's a delicate process because if you overdo it, you can make it worse. So I stopped and I went up another number to the 800 grit, sanded that flat, wiped it down, and as you can see, it's a little bit frosted. Now, people might be thinking, oh my God, D, what have you done? But just wait for the final result. After masking up the light, it was time to come in with this stuff. This is clear coat, and as you can see, it's scratch resistant, making it perfect for this application. Now, as soon as it touches that surface, as you can see, the frost is completely gone, and I am so happy with the results. Have a look. Now, once dried, I removed that masking, and I was so happy. I've just saved myself 300 quid. Wow! Jeez! Not bad, innit? Exactly, from a wreck to this. Oh, happy days. With that out of the way, it was time to attach this new bumper carrier for the bottom. This actually clips onto the front slam panel and is very important to hold that bumper on. With the main unit clipped in place, I just had to apply these 2 button clips at the bottom, and then I was able to put in the fog light carriers. Now, funnily enough, even though the old bumper was broken, I was able to extract all of these parts from that old bumper. And there you have it. Top tip guys, never throw away your old parts until the build is complete. I've learned the hard way. Alright you guys, so as you see, I was getting a bit carried away earlier trying to put the bumper on the car before adding this little bracket that we just got from BMW and those fog light brackets, 1 and 2. They have been securely clipped into place and fastened down. This is completely fastened down. And now is the time that I've been waiting for. Let's go get the car, put it in the garage, and we're gonna marry up this front bumper with the car. And then finally, we're gonna put in the final last few grills at the very last. That's gonna be the finishing touches for this amazing paint job that Akil has done on that bumper. But for now, let's get the car in, marry it up. So guys, this is it. This is the final time this front bumper is going to be going onto the car. So I had to take my time with it. With the car jacked up, I turned my attention to the 6 screws that hold the top of the bumper in place. Now I've left these fairly loose and I'll explain why later on. I actually had to remove the bumper again because I forgot to refit that front pedestrian sensor into the bumper. Back on, and remember those screws are still loose. After ensuring the bumper was in place, I went ahead and I secured 2 number 8 screws to secure the bumper to the wing. With the driver's side completed, I had to repeat the entire process on the passenger side, making sure that everything clipped together, screwed together, and was completely flush. Now back to those loose screws. With the bonnet closed, as you can see, the screws are still loose, and this gives me the ability to adjust that body line. Once I was happy with that body line, I opened up the bonnet and fully fastened down those screws to secure everything in place and have a look at those lines. Jeez, if I ever flop at YouTube, I'm gonna be a linesman. Tell me what you think of those lines in the comments down below. I am so happy with the way that this car is coming along, but damn, look at those lines. So guys, take a look at this thing now. Let me step back. Just look at the beauty. This is one of the nicest designed BMWs that I've seen in a long time. I prefer this shape than a lot of the newer shapes, but listen man, this thing has come out really nice. I'm really happy with everything. We're yet to polish everything, give it a nice deep cut and polish, but yeah, guys, have a look at that. And look at the lines on this bonnet. Look at the lines there. Look at these lines there. And look at these lines here. Everything is symmetrical, everything is level, and I'm happy with all of that. The bumper's gone on nice and snug. I am, however, gonna buy a new set of these kidney grills. I always saw them on the old bumper there, and I thought, yeah, I'm gonna reuse them, but I've just noticed that it's broken right there, so I'm not gonna put that on the car. I'm not even gonna waste any time trying to fit it or trying to repair it. I'm gonna order a new set, as well as the lower grills as well. 1, 2, and there's a little trim at the bottom right there that I need to get. But as soon as I get those, I can say that this car's 100% finished. But guys, listen man, what's next is I'm gonna put that license plate on. I'm gonna take it down to the car wash. I literally just removed all of the writing on the windscreen. Some of these auction houses, they use different kind of markers, but I find that if I use a bit of thinners, it gets it all off, but it just leaves this residue. I don't know if you can see that. So now I'm gonna take it to the car wash, get it all cleaned up. The final thing I had to do before heading to the car wash was transfer that number plate. As for the grills, they'll be fitted later on. And after a trip to my local car wash, this is what we were left with. This thing is looking so sick, but let's break it down. So as you know, I bought this car for 6K from IAA. I saved one headlight, but I had to buy a replacement bonnet for 180 quid. I also had to buy a replacement front bumper. I got that for 100 quid and a new headlight for 320 quid. After that, I got a lower bumper guide for 60 quid, and I also got a front slam panel for 150 quid. And that gave me a total spend of 6K for the car from IAA auctions, a total of £810 on parts. I spent £50 on paint and material, with a grand total of 6,860 quid for a 2016 BMW 218i petrol turbo with only 30,000 on the clock. I think that's a result, but I want you to tell me what you think in the comments down below. So guys, there you have it. After 3 whole days, we've turned this wrecked BMW 2 Series into a thing of beauty. And like I said, I've ordered those grills, so try to ignore or imagine that those grills are there when you saw those slow motion shots just now. But we've managed to rebuild the front end. The interior's cleaned up really nicely. There's a few little marks around the car. We're gonna polish those out. We're gonna get this car looking in tip-top condition, and I'm gonna list this car on Auto Trader. A lot of you guys always ask, where do I sell my cars? I sell my cars on the regular channels that everyone else will sell a car. The car is super clean, super low mileage, full service history, and it's ready to go to a new owner. So this is where we're gonna draw the curtains on this build. We got some exciting news coming for you next week, so if you wanna see that, subscribe to the channel. For all the new subscribers, I thank you, and for the OG subscribers, come on man, thank you. So this is where we're gonna head off. So like I always say, keep it moving, and I'll see you in the next one. Boom. Guys, thank you for watching. Click here to see what YouTube thinks you should watch. Click here to watch one of my previous episodes. And like it said there, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We out.